visually you'll see that it's hard. And we're going to talk about it there. Kim had a similar issue with the pointer here. And that something for your eyes to focus on. The brain is a dangerous place to go alone. We do it so often. It tells us that we're seeing something we're not, that something is not there that we know is. So it's amazing how visually that transfer from looking at something to hitting the brain can get cloudy. So sometimes you have to make it and manipulate it a little bit. Focus on, go back. That's why making sure your designs are visually balanced is as important as them being physically balanced. I think everyone's finished, so we'll go ahead and start back here. I'm going to flip yours around so everyone can see. And I want you to tell them what you learned from doing this piece.
All pieces are done. I started off by doing very differently, different textures, and after I got halfway through it, then the traditional side of me said it needs to be traditional, so I went and did the white. It's just not working for me personally.
He got to the forks of his design road and went to the left instead of keeping to the right.
And what I think I should have done was kept this entire look on the entire heart and done more of a focus at the bottom, cascading it down than to try to do this side.
There's a whole number of ways that we could change this to go back to what we talked about in doing was I wanted something really, really contemporary because I knew this would be a challenge. Looking at a really traditional shape, sometimes your brain tells you this is the way it should look because that's the way I've always done it. It has to be like that, and no matter what I do, it's not going to work otherwise. Right. That's taking that step out of being a floral designer and moving into being a floral artist and letting your heart and soul come into your work. I love this, and I told him I wish he had just gone the whole wreath like that and put a little something somewhere else, or even imagine this with just one or two orchid blooms glued in here or there. Really simple, really simple. Because sometimes, like we've been talking about, we have to tell ourselves, I'm through. Put your knife down, that's enough. So don't let the shape of something force you in to do changing your design ability just because of the shape. So look at it. Not that this is bad, sellable, it could go out, it's beautiful, all that, but your client wanted something really contemporary, and I'm afraid if they got this, they'd be really disappointed. They'd be like, well, they tried. It would probably be what somebody would feel in that. This is a beautiful piece, just kind of lost our way on there. And a lot of times that's why. The challenge in doing a cross, you're going to meet this same challenge because a cross is a very traditional shape. And your brain is going to tell you to do it a certain way. So not wrong. And what did you learn from doing that?
Follow your heart.
Follow your heart. You know what you're doing. Stop when you need to stop. Mr. Bookkeeper, what did we learn?
Holy mackerel.
Some of the continuity of, because I left these tulips closed, but I had these out for the pop. It's got that yellow in there. The terrace thing, that's kind of what I was trying to look at. Not designing against the wall, making everything flat. So I am bringing the textures out, working into two different levels of the textures. You know, you have your keepsake in there, of course, and then of course I had all these tulips closed like this one. He suggested that to make it make sense, to pull that out of here a little bit, so you have that yellow, you know, just that band.
And do you agree with it?
I do. Like I say, this could be a different flower. I know tulips have their own mind. They're, you know, they do what they want to, you know. So, you know.
Most people looking at this would not know that those are tulips.
Back.
They would think it was a daffodil or something else.
It gives it totally different, you know, when they're crank or to hold it back like that. You know, for the couple of days it has to be, you'd have to experiment with it. But I just thought that, you know, that yellow, you know, going the traditional all white, not monochromatic in the most part, just gives it that pop.
You do want to be careful with tulips and sympathy work. If this were going out for a service today and not viewing and then another service and then another service, I wouldn't send out the tulips. If it's going out for just something today, I would, because they'll hold up. But tulips drink so much water and they do grow because they're phototropic. It might not look the same tomorrow, depending on where it's setting on the funeral home. It could shoot a whole different direction and completely destroy the look of it. So be careful with that. The only other thing I would do is just like we talked about with Melina here, is making this so much larger, making your heart bigger, just leaving a little bit of stem on there, only because it's kind of shrunk back to it's so tight when this is not, that they're fighting against each other just a little bit. But again, very good job for the bookkeeper. Ma'am, what did we learn by doing this piece?
Well, I learned I can stick tulips in Oasis. Didn't know I could do that. I also learned that I don't have to have a separate little piece of Oasis on it to make it come off the heart. Also learned that you can cut gladiola blooms apart. Never had done that before. Also tested that wrap with the leaf. Never done that before. And then he suggested that instead of being so cautious with my tulips like down in here where they're just kind of normal, that I could have come out with them and made this and that bigger.
A little more depth, a little more texture. The same thing we've talked about the last couple of days. Don't be afraid of that.
And I think that was my safe side, not even knowing really how to do the tulips in it. I think I just played it safe because, wow, that's cool. I can stick them in like that. That's cool enough. Where then after I talked to you, I stuck the tulips out. And that does look nice and pretty.
And in doing tulips in a design, I would do this 9 times out of 10 and not this.
Okay.
Because if these get weak and wimpy, it's not going to matter. They're already laying down.
Okay.
So that's another process of learning how to manipulate your flowers for a sympathy situation. Something that might get weak or wimpy pointing down is not going to destroy your design. So think about that when you do it. And then we talked about this up here. She was going to compact or continue with the clustered flowers up here. And that's really hard because to get a heart shape, you need to have a dip at the top and a dip at the bottom. And it can start to not show, not stand out. And then it just starts to look like a wreath. So you need to sometimes accentuate that and make it look more than it even is so that you see that shape that's in there. Because they wanted a heart and you wanted to look at it and know that it's a heart without question whatsoever.